With Islamic State, we know that they were killing people who had been taken hostage. We know that they were killing people who had committed some sort of minor crimes and were then left and their bodies left in the square outside. We know that they had invaded Mosul. We know that they had effectively taken away what was an original revolution against Bashar al-Assad. And yet you stayed with it. But now you're sort of saying that there's a link here between the coalition, but Islamic State was attacking and killing indiscriminately. Now that must have been clear to you.
Say that the coalition attacked because they felt that their interests were at threat.
No, maybe they felt that the barbaric behaviour of Islamic State was such that they had to intervene.
If we say that they're attacked because their interests was at stake, this is something comprehensible. What's not comprehensible is to say that they decided to carry out their campaign in defense of human rights atrocities, or what is considered human rights atrocities, the judicial system, or the stoning of the adulterer, or the cut in the hand of the thief, and or the treatment of homosexuals. And if this was the case, and this is a point that we had discussed with some of the DOD in the interrogations, then I'm sure America would have taken a clear stance against Saudi Arabia, who is well known for their application of some of the penal systems or the penal codes of Islam, or from the religious texts, such as stoning, such as the beheadings and of sorcerers, and so on. But America doesn't not just take a stance, and the UK for that matter, they don't just not take a stance, they even host them. The Queen hosts the King of Saudi Arabia. They sit with them, they actually join the coalition with them. So if that was the case...
But yeah, I get that point, but people do make complaints about that in the UK. The point of the matter is, if you were against what Islamic State were doing, you weren't going to be able to complain, you couldn't start and stop it, you chose not to. Therefore, you are complicit in whatever was going on.
That is a unacceptable notion, that because somebody didn't speak out, that they were complicit. Complacent or complicit? Complicit. Complicit. Because not every person who didn't say no to the Iraq War, or the invasion of Afghanistan, or the atrocities in Abu Ghraib, or we say that they're complicit as well.
The question, I suppose, is though that you did join up, you did go, you're in Raqqa, you're seeing these things that are taking place. Are you saying that you simply couldn't do anything with it?
The point here is that to simply say that because a person is not proven that they said or did anything in objection to an act that a governance that they were living under committed, to say that they're complicit, this is not
it just seems to stretch the realms of logical thinking. And your logical argument is, I understand the point of the argument is, you're not actually compelled to stay in a state that has set itself up and is murdering indiscriminately and being barbaric.
Not compelled by what standards am I not compelled?
By compelled by any standards.
By religious standards.
If the religious standards, it must be un-Islamic. What, the beheading and killing, the throwing of homosexuals off buildings, leaving bodies out.
We already said that.
Not in this time.
The religious obligation of falling under the Imam or the Caliph stretches beyond your agreement of his policies or his understanding or his methodology in jurisprudence, in Islamic law. I can differ with the Imam in how we understand Islamic law, but as long as he's the Imam, just like Conservative and Labour. Do all the Labour people just start breaking the law when the...
Well, no, that's the point, you see, because you're actually making links to governments that don't just unilaterally start carrying out remarkable acts of violence and invading sovereign countries, which they have done.
No, that's exactly what they do. I don't think that America came here with the approval of the Syrian government, even though the Syrian government is considered by international law a sovereign government. I don't think they set up 20 bases on the soil, Syrian soil, with the approval of the Syrian government. This is exactly what it is.
You must have been aware, of course, of the videos that were being produced of life there, and obviously the videos of people being murdered. Now, what did you think about that?
It's propaganda.
But it's been more than propaganda, isn't it?
No, it literally is propaganda. That's exactly what media is. It's meant to tell a narrative And that was the narrative that I guess the decision makers saw that they wanted to put out.
And what did you think about
The narrative or the...
the narrative and the fact that people were being killed?
I have my own personal views about it. Probably not something I wish to share on the media.
I mean, did you not think to yourselves, well, this isn't what I signed up for?
What isn't?
The fact that people are just being murdered and it's being put out on video, that is really quite horrendous. I mean, most people accept their horror movies.
Just the point of, like, this isn't what I signed up for is a bit like, said if coalition airstrike carried out one of his airstrikes and under the collateral damage or the guise of collateral damage, we don't say, well, is this what you signed up for?
Well, I didn't sign up for anything, of course, and that's the point I made, is that you did sign up and became members of Islamic State. I'm not a member of any armed forces at all, so there is a difference.
Make a clear distinction between being aligned religiously to the Islamic State and being part of fighting force of the Islamic State or agreeing with Islamic State policy. Everything is separate. You cannot bunch them all into one category. You're a British citizen, right? Do you agree with everything the British government does in and outside of the UK?
I think if I saw bodies in the middle of a square in the centre of what is effectively my capital city, I would have a really big issue with it, but you apparently didn't.
Maybe because your United Kingdom is not Syria. Like I said, this was something that was being carried out by so-called allies of America and UK and other countries, Russia and other superpowers of the world.
Yeah, but I'm talking specifically about bodies being put into the central square in Raqqa, and being left on the railings, right? Now, you have to have seen it.
Justifying anything Islamic State did, it's not an obligation or a duty of me to justify or condemn anything. And but the point we're trying to make is that you being a British citizen, you don't turn around one day when Britain commits some war crime or some kind of act of terrorism and say, this isn't what I signed up for, because you didn't sign up for it. You were born British, right? Many people, like myself, who became religiously aligned to the Islamic State, it's a default. Just like being born into a certain country, it's a default. I'm a Muslim.
But you did sign up, and my question is, surely when you can see these things, these atrocities, you can see bodies on the streets, you know people are being arrested and executed.
I think you're just confusing the issue of conscription.
No, I'm not confusing. I'm saying that
there's no conscription. It's by default. If you're a Muslim, it's by default.
I don't think every Muslim in the world joined Islamic State.
This is according to their understanding of Islam.
No, but this is just surely a straight moral question, as anyone could see. Blowing up kids in an
Yeah, I mean, in a general sense, I think we've made it clear. I mean, if you want to talk about specifics, I would prefer not to engage in specific condemnations, not considering my current disposition.
Don't know. Do you think that there will be more attacks to come?
I think based on that type of mentality, that type of thinking, there will be lots of things that will happen on both sides of the spectrum. Many more people like myself will be stripped of rights or citizenships because of this narrow thinking. Many more innocent people may be harmed because of this narrow understanding of holding people accountable for things that they didn't do. So yeah, this type of narrow-mindedness will only breed more negativity and violence, and it's on both sides.